What if I told you one small Linux command could decide who can edit your files, who can delete them, and who can't even open them? That's exactly what chmod does. Most people memorize these commands like 755, 644, and 777. Today, we are going to understand them using simple real life examples so you never have to memorize them again. But before we start changing permissions, let's quickly remember that what we learned in previous video. We learned about every file in Linux has permissions. Linux divides those permissions into owner, group, and others, and each of them can have read, write, and execute permissions. Now, here's the important question, why do we need chmod? So, imagine you have created a file. Now you want your teammate to edit it, or maybe you want to stop everyone else from modifying it, or you have written a shell script, but Linux refuses to run it. That's where chmod comes in. So chmod simply means change mode, or in simple words, you can say it changes the permissions of a file or folder. I'll explain you with real life example. So let's understand this. Imagine you have built a classroom. At first, only you have the key. Later, you give a key to your classmates, and maybe after that, you decide everyone in the college can enter. You notice something, you are not changing the classroom, you are only changing the who gets access. So, Linux works exactly the same way. chmod changes who can read, write, or execute a file. So I'll show you these all things with practical, like, let's open the terminal first and see it in action. So open your WSL install and search from window button, type WSL, and you can see your terminals open. And now make a directory named as chmod-demo, and then change the directory to chmod-demo. Now what you will see, let me zoom in for you. Uh, Write the command as touch notes.txt. Now if you want to check the list of your file, then type command as list l in detailed way. And we already know what this means, like the owner can read and write, the group can only read, and others can only read. Now let's start changing these permissions. Then continue with some commands like, suppose I have written a shell script and I want Linux to allow me to execute it. Or maybe I want my teammate to edit this file. So how do I change these permissions? That's exactly we are going to learn now using the chmod command. Now type this command in your terminal, WSL terminal. So type command as, first let's clear the screen, and type the command as chmod u plus x notes.txt file. I'm supposing you don't know about this command, so let's decode this command first. Like, I added this x only for the owner, right? And this plus sign means add permission. Let me explain you this commands through image. So here you can see from image that commands you have written in your terminal as chmod u plus x notes.txt. So here chmod is basically change mode, and here u stands for user or owner. This plus sign means add permission, and this x means execute. So now the owner can execute this file through these commands. Now if I want to remove the permission, so what command should I write? So let's write the command in your terminal. So to remove the permission, I have to write chmod u minus x chmod u minus x, the file name as notes.txt. So here minus means you can see using these commands we can remove the permission. Click the internet or enter, sorry. Now if you want to read the permission, so what command you should write? Type as chmod g plus w file name notes.txt. So using these commands, like here G stands for group, like I have added write permission also for this group, right? If I want to add others in this command, so write chmod o for others plus write command in notes.txt file. Okay, and now if I want to write command for everyone so that everyone can execute it also, so write command as chmod a for everyone plus x for execute and the name of file as notes.txt. So here a means all users like owner, group and others, everyone gets execute permission. These commands in your terminal too, so that you don't need to memorize from now, and you can directly fit these commands in your mind. Now this method is called symbolic mode because we are using here letters like U, G, O, A along with plus and minus signs, right? But in real companies, like developers mostly use numbers. Let me show you through example or with visual representation. So developers don't use letters or plus minus sign. Developers mostly use numbers. So let's understand like where numbers like 755 or 644. uh, so let's understand this through example. Like read and stands for 4 number, write stands for 2, execute 1. So let's say Linux assign a value to every permission, right? Like remember as read assigned as 4, write 2 and execute assigned as 1. Now we simply add them, right? Let's add them simply. So you can see here, if I write the command as rwx, so it can be understood as read, write, execute. So read stands for 4, write 2 and execute 1. When we add these all numbers, we'll get 7, right? And same for group, like group stands for r dash dash, which means read, write, execute, and where we don't have access of write and execute, so we only have the access of read, so only add 4 since read stands for 4. So 4 plus 0 plus 0, that gives 4. Same applied to others group, and final number will get 744. Like these all commands, including these all commands rwx, r dash dash and r dash dash, it totally becomes 744. So like this, every set of three permissions, for whether it applies to user, group or others, it converts into one number using this formula only, that gives number as 7. Now we know where the numbers come from, but one question still remains, like what does 744 actually mean? So think of it this way, like Linux always divides permissions into three groups, right? Owner, group, others, and each group gets one number. So when you see like 744, don't read it as like 744, instead read it as 744 and one number assigned for each group. Like let me show you through one image. Now, this is the part where most beginners get confused. Like they see numbers like 744, 755, or 644 and try to memorize them. But you don't need to memorize anything. Like you just need to understand this with one simple rule. So, let me just tweak for you. Since Linux divides permissions into three groups like owner, groups, and others, That's why every permission has three digits. Think of it like first digit owner, second digit as group, and third digit as others. So when you see 744, don't read it as 744, instead read it as 744, which understands for owner, group, and others. Okay, so first 7 belongs to the owner, second 4 belongs to the group, and the last 4 belongs to others. Now Linux assigns a value to every permission. So we simply add these values and see what will we get by adding each digit. So 7 means 4 plus 2 plus 1 means read plus write plus execute. Or in other words, I can say the owner gets full control. Like 4 means only read, that's why both group and others can read the file. Now here's the interesting part. What if we change only one digit? Like instead of 744, I can change or transition to 755. So instead of 744, what changes? So let's see it through terminal, or I can say practical demo. So write command. First let's clear the screen by clear command and write the command as chmod 755 notes.txt. Type enter. Then write command as ls-l to see the detailed list. Okay. So you can see here like the owner still has full control, but now group and others have read and execute permission. Like they can open the file too, they can execute it, but they still cannot edit it because write permission is missing here. So you can understand this through numbers and their functions assigned to each digit. Now comes to other number, that is 644. So let's write the command as chmod 644 notes.txt. Write enter. Now this is probably most common permission you will see for normal files, like the owner can read and edit the file. So let's type ls-l. So you can see the owner can read and edit the file, and everyone else can only read it. You can see here group and others can only read the file. That's why many configuration files and documents use 644. And finally, that chmod 777 notes.txt, this gives you can check through ls-l. This gives you read, write, and execute permissions to everyone. Like it may look convenient, but it's also risky. That's why professional developers avoid using 777 unless there's a very specific reason. So that's the power of chmod command. You can see from the terminal or whatever I discussed through the image or visual representation and through practical demo. Now you don't have to memorize all those numbers used in Linux like 755, 755, 644 or 777. You know what each digit represents and how to choose the right permission for your files. Now in next video, we'll learn another important Linux command, that is chown, and understand the difference between ownership and permissions because they are often confused by beginners. So if you found this video helpful, give it a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments that which permissions would you use for a normal text file like 755 or 644 and why. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in next one.